Hi everyone, thank you very much for being here with me. Is everybody sleepy after lunch? Or everybody is okay to continue? You're a bit sleepy? I know, I am, I know. Yeah, so the title of my presentation is You Are Not the User. And actually, these are not my words. They belong to Jacob Nielsen. And Jacob Nielsen is kind of famous in the user testing, user research community. But I will put things in context a little bit later. Okay. A couple of words about myself. My name is Anca Sandu. I come from Bucharest, Romania. I'm currently a user researcher, and I'm working as a freelancer. And I didn't become a freelancer by myself. I worked a lot in corporate and tech corporations, in IBM. Then I moved to tech startups, and then I decided I want to go on my own. So I took a 1-month sabbatical, went to do the Camino, and then here I am now talking to you about user research. But I think what's important for you to know about this presentation is the fact that I have 8 years of experience in quantitative research, doing online surveys, and 2 years of experience working in qualitative research, doing user interviews. And this is how I practically managed to combine the product development part with the research part. I'm also doing design thinking. Is anybody here familiar with design thinking? My people? Yes, okay, super. Okay, design thinking is a human-centered methodology which talks about creating products starting from the people who are experiencing the problems that we want to solve. Good. I tried to be a windsurfer. This year I started doing windsurf. I failed at it, but at least I tried it, and I'm such a big cat lover. I'm hoping you are as well, otherwise don't hate me. And before we get started, going forward, I want to know more about you. So, raise your hand if you are a freelancer or a startup. Work in a startup? Okay. Then raise your hand if you work in a mid-sized company or an enterprise. Okay, super. Okay, super. Good. Raise your hand if you're a developer or a designer, UI, UX. Cool, okay. Any product managers, marketers around? Okay, cool. What did I miss? Entrepreneurs. Any entrepreneurs? Super. Okay, good. Nice to meet you. Okay. Today we'll be talking about user research, and we'll put it in context in product development. Why we do research? This is like a summary of what I'm going to talk to you about today. Why we do research, research methods that you can use, how to do research when you have users, and how to do user research when you don't have users. Okay. And before we go any further, I want to take a couple of steps back in my history. In 2017, I was selected to be part of an international team that went to India to work with a local community there. Our mission was to help them with the challenges that they were having. And my team was assigned to work with fishermen, right? And their challenges were about ensuring security and communication at sea. The thing is, imagine this. I work in a corporation behind a desk at a laptop, and I don't know anything about fishermen, and nothing at all. I don't know how they fish. I don't know how, I don't know how they live their lives, and I don't know how they do it in India. I don't know anything about those. But in this context, they were my customers. And I want to ask you, does it sometimes feel that your customers speak a different language than you do? Yeah, that's how I felt at that point. I didn't know anything about my customers. So that's where actually research came into play and helped me understand with whom I'm talking to. I arrived in India. I spent there 1 month. And out of that month, 3 weeks were dedicated going on the field. And on the field, I conducted user interviews and participatory observation. And I spoke with fishermen, boat owners, government officials, marine biology professors, and also, what else? I think that's about it. And I wanted to understand their perspectives from different angles, just to understand the same problem, why fishermen don't feel safe at sea, and what is the security issues that they are facing. In the fieldwork, I managed to actually understand who my customers were, and I was able there to draft a solution for them. the thing is that if I stayed in my office, I would have probably researched on the internet, look how other people are doing communication at sea, and then come up with a mobile application. And then I would have launched it to the fishermen, only to find out that they were illiterate, and it was impossible for them to use a mobile application on sea. Plus, they don't have smartphones. So how can I build a mobile application for somebody who doesn't own a smartphone? Now, the people here in this image, these are my first respondents. They were all, when I went on the field, I asked them to do like one-to-one interviews with them, in-depth interviews with each one of them. When I got on the field, I found 50 men sitting in front of me, 50 old men sitting in front of me, waiting to be interviewed. So I had to, instead of taking them one by one, I had to talk with the whole group. What I found in this first user interview that I took, I mean, this is actually a focus group, is that these people, the ones with the white shirts, they were not fishermen. Their T-shirts were way too clean to be the ones going on the sea. But because India has such a stratified society, it was hard to me to reach my actual target audience. My target audience is actually in the back, the ones sitting, not the ones standing down, the ones standing up, not the ones sitting, the ones that were actually exposed to hazards at sea. So yeah, it was very hard for me to reach them, but in the end, you know, I'm a Romanian, I found my way around, and I actually managed to reach the fishermen and talk to them about their actual problems. But why am I telling you all this information? I mean, you don't have to go to India to do user research, that's for sure. The only thing is that, as I mentioned, sometimes it feels like you and your customers are from different continents. And sometimes it feels like there's a big disconnect between what you're creating and what the user is experiencing. I don't know if you know about a study, a CB Insight study, conducted in 2018 on why startups fail. And can anybody tell me maybe one or two reasons why do you believe that startups fail or ideas fail? Sorry? What? The bad timing, okay. Anything else? Focus on the wrong idea, okay. It's communication between the founders, okay. Any ideas? Okay, good. I mean, you are very close to what they discovered. They discovered that 42% of the startups interviewed mentioned that the reason why startups fail is because there is no market need for what they produce. So it means that whatever products or services we bring to market, they don't fit with what the customers really need. So that means that, and why is it happening actually? It's happening because we sometimes believe that we know better than our customers. It may happen, I'm not saying that you are doing that, someone else outside this building is doing that. We may believe that like we know better than our customers, and we have an idea, which is a brilliant idea, and we kind of fall in love with it, right? And we want to develop it, we want to bring it to the market. And what do we do in that case? We invest. We invest time, we invest resources, we invest money, people, and I mean, we work on developing a product, and after, let's say, 7 or 8 months, we launch it, and when we launch it, I mean, nobody picks it up. Nobody actually wants to buy the product. And I mean, this is super representative for what happened to me. I was in this kind of situation before. These guys did user research. It turned out the ideas were dumb, but in hindsight, they should have tested with people from outside their company. So it happened to me once. I worked on a product. There was a new product which was developed by the company I was working for. They had an idea. We had the specifications. We hired a developer. We invested time in marketing, in communication, and also in whatever other sales and so on, and on onboarding and user experience. And what we discovered was that at the end, after 8 months of developing the product, nobody bought it, even if it was for free. So nobody actually wanted to test out the product that we were delivering. That's what happened because we build the product between ourselves, with our minds, with our vision, with our focus. We stayed in a room and we decided about how the user experience should look like, how the features should look like, how the colors, the tooltips and the text, and how the graphics should look like on each page. And that actually led to a very important lesson, a lesson which maybe I mean, a lesson which I will actually hope that you will also take with you from here, that you have to build something like a prototype, could be like super low fidelity on paper, test it with somebody, with your friends at first, and maybe with like your actual users, iterate it, update it, and then continue making these kind of small adjustments until your product needs to meets your market. Because I mean, in the end, we all want to create products which sell. I mean, products which people find valuable. Cool. I was telling to you about earlier about the title of my presentation. You are not a user. It comes actually from this quote, and this belongs to Jacob Nielsen, as I said. You're not going to read everything here, it's too long, but 3 ideas I want you to take with you. You are not your user. You are not the ones who is actually not the ones who's going to buy the product in the end, and you're actually not the ones who's going to pay your salaries in the end. There's an interesting talk on YouTube. A guy from Booking.com is talking about A/B testing, and he said at one point that if I was the one designing the user interface for Booking.com, I would have created a different kind of product, but I'm not the one, the user is, and if the user is okay with that, so I'm fine with that as well. It's a disaster to guess the user's needs. Remember my story when we invested time and resources and money, and at the end, after 8 months or working super isolated, nobody was willing to buy the product in the end, right? And it's misleading to rely on your personal references. And think about that. You're developing a product, or you're developing a feature of a product, or you're involved in product development somewhere, somehow, some way or another. You are spending 8 to 10 hours a day, I don't know how many hours a day, maybe even the weekends, looking at that feature, looking at that product, right? Your user sees it for the first time with a fresh eye. Think about your experience and the way you see the product, and think about how a user sees the product for the first time. And I'm going to give you like a short personal story. This little, how do I call it? That little black circle made me lose 3 hours of my life because it was very hard for me to understand what was written out there. If you're from Romania, are there any Romanians here? Okay, one. my friend. So if you're from Romania, you receive this kind of flyer whenever you get a package in the postal office. And this flyer, it says, go to the postal office number X to retrieve your package. Now, in my case, the postal office number was, it was not very clear. It could have been 68, 69, 63. I have no idea. So I Googled it. I looked on Google Maps, and I saw that all the postal offices were far away from me, but I chose the one who was closer, so I went there. So I spent one hour by bus going there. I get down at the wrong station because I don't know the area. I have to walk back to the postal office number 68. I get there. The lady there tells me that this is wrong, this is not the right number. They started arguing among themselves because one says it's 68, 169, 167, whatever. And then after 1 hour, they tell me that it's not where it should be. It's actually 63. So I go back home, looking for office 63. By that time, my battery died, so I was super frustrated. It started raining, and of course, I didn't know where I was. I had to take a bus back. 1 hour later, I was at the other postal office, number 63, the good one this time. And when I reached there with my ticket, I was soaking wet. They told me, no, there are 2 postal office number 63 here in Bucharest. And of course, the more philos were like, you are at the wrong one. So you have to go like 30 minutes more and find your package at the correct postal office number 63. After 3 hours, the package was with me. The thing is, leaving aside the Romanian system, which is the way it is, think about this. The postman wrote a number on the flyer. For him, it's super easy to understand it's 63. Why are you so stupid, girl? I mean, it's 63. It's super clear. I'm creating the 3 in a different way. I'm writing it differently, right? So for me, it's very hard to decipher what he's writing. So maybe put things in context. Think about what you are designing, what you are producing, the user experience that you're bringing to the table, and how that affects your customers. Are they losing time deciphering what you want to create? Or are they, is it making it easier for them to navigate, to save time, and to use that time with something that maybe their family or something else? Good. We do research. Why we do research? We do research in all stages of the product. We do it when we don't have any idea. We have a market. We want to understand which are the frictions there and what problems we can pick it up and solve. We do research to refine our hypotheses. We have a business idea, just like we did. We had a business idea that in e-commerce, customer retention is important. But we didn't have anybody to validate it with, so we went our own and created something. And we also do research when we want to redesign or want to relaunch an existing product. Does it happen to you to have a product first and then look for the market? Yeah? That's one way to put things. I mean, you have a product, you need to find your market, and to find your market, you need to do a couple of, you can use some research methods to do that. And what kind of research methods you can use? If you want to understand your market, you can use do competitive analysis. If you want to understand your users, you do user research. And I will go into details a little bit more. Competitive analysis. How many of you done competitive analysis in the past? Or okay, 2, 3, 4, super, okay. So you may be doing this differently than I do, so it's okay. We can talk about that afterwards, and maybe we can share best practices. Whenever I do, I do competitive analysis for a customer or for a product. I look at some key points, and I look at the top players in the space. And when I say top players, I mean the following. So I'm doing this analysis for a mobile application platform. The first thing I wanted to do is understand who is the top player in the category I will be designing the product for. So what I do, I install the application on my mobile, and I start testing it. And sooner, I get recommendations of other applications. The way I select the top players is based by number of downloads, the rate, the release date. It should be closer to our date, because that means that the application is still active. So download rate, release date, and also number of reviews. It means that customers care about the product and they want to contribute to the products one way or another. And then I look at features. What are the features that all the applications have, and what are the features, and I must have as well, and what are those features that need to be are supplementary, and how are the customers reviewing those features? I look at strengths and weaknesses, and that's based on the customer reviews, and their onboarding process. If they have an online presence, and if they do something in marketing, like if they do paid media, or if they are active on social media, they have channels, if their customers are there talking about them, promoting them, sharing their content. Now, when we do user research, there's a bit of a different story. These are all methods that you can use to do research. Steve Mulder does a very good way of classifying these methods based on what you need. If you look for validation, then you should go for quantitative research. And in that case, you have user surveys, customer supported analytics, and all that stuff. If you want to go for insights, you want to go for quality. And in that case, you have user interviews, field studies, diaries, usability testing, and so on. If you want to go for If you want to go for behaviors, you look for A/B testing. And eye tracking, if you want to go for goals and attitudes, you can go for focus groups and user surveys again. In my case, I am specialized in 2 of these areas, in user interviews and user surveys. So what's coming next after this slide is mostly based on my experience in user interviews and user surveys. So I was asking you about, I was talking about how to do user surveys when you have and when you don't have users. And when you have users, it's kind of simple, you might think. When you don't have users, it's a bit complicated, but we'll get there. In this case, for each of these 2 scenarios, I will talk about a personal story, with two of my projects. The first one is FoodKit. FoodKit is a food delivery startup in Romania. They have a very interesting business model. They cook the food in a certain way, sous vide is called. That means that they keep the food keeps its nutrients for a longer period of time, and you can eat it whenever you want. So they entered the market in Romania, and they were growing organically, but they didn't understand how to grow their business and how to scale it. They didn't know exactly who their customers are, why they chose them and not the competition, what they were looking for, how they find them, and of course, how to engage with them or find similar customers to be able to grow their database. That was their challenge. Their plan was to, let's talk to the customers. And it sounds so easy, let's talk to the customers, and everybody uses, okay, we talk to customers. But the thing is, it took 2 months to understand what the customers actually need and to put things in a structured way and actually to deliver a roadmap on which to execute the ideas. So what I did with them was to download the entire user database, look at the number of customers they had, look at the number of orders. And what I did from there is I extracted the extreme users, which are super important. Whenever you find extreme users, even they are good or bad, both extreme users will give you vision into the future, what other customers will be doing in the future as well. I also looked at loyal customers and then one-time customers to understand what blocked them from buying further, and also clients who did not make any purchase, but they signed in to make a delivery. Then, after I create the selection criteria, I built an interview guide, and I can't stress enough how important an interview guide is. Has anybody done an interview guide so far? Create questions and, okay. They're super important. Whenever you interview a customer, it should be about the customer more than about your product, and it should be about open-ended questions to get needs, frictions, emotions, and to understand where your product can solve those needs. I also started calling users, and maybe it was easier for me because I have this soft voice, but people said yes, okay, let's do it and let's meet. And it was important for them. What I found it interesting here, if you want to do user research and you want to do it on your own, especially if you're in a startup and you don't have resources, for me, it worked when I told them I can meet them anywhere at what hour they could do it. I mean, in a cafe or in a restaurant, in the park, wherever, at what hour, I would be there for them, and we can discuss about their experience with FoodKit. Carried out the user interviews. We had like 15 hours of user interviews, 1 hour per interview, so 15 interviews in the end. And the best part here, if you stop here, the best part is only now starting. If you stop here, for example, your work is kind of nothing because you have a lot of raw materials and you need to do something with them. You need to transform them into something, either in an onboarding process, either in new features, or to update or make your product more fit for your customers. So we had to synthesize the data and we had to extract also the insight. The results was user personas, and I will be showing them to you afterwards immediately. Untapped markets we weren't even considering, like mothers with children. We weren't even considering that was a market, and we discovered that in the interviews. And opportunities for growth in product, in onboarding, in go-to-market, like in sales. We were not considering gym or nutritionists as partners, or supermarkets, for example. So here is a very stripped-down user persona. This is one of FoodKit's current customers. My intention was to understand here who they are, in terms of demographics, but also their tensions and their needs, to understand in terms of food and in terms of eating habits. So it was Andrew is a very independent kind of persona. He wants to have energy, and he's his own boss, and he doesn't want to be told what to do or what to eat. He keeps a very good track of his calories, for example. He wants to enjoy food, but also wants food to be healthy, so he wants to find this balance, and he wants to find it fast. His tensions, he doesn't have time. He spends a lot of money on junk food, and junk food is everywhere. So, and doesn't have control over the quality of food. This is Andrew. And this is Diana. And Diana is a completely different person from Andrew. And both of them are clients, are customers of the same food delivery company. So Diana is different. She works in a corporation, and she's in her 30s. She realized that she has to start to take care of herself first. So she needs to start eating healthy. She doesn't want to sit in the office anymore, longer hours. She is looking for alternatives for the gym. And her tensions are unhealthy options are tempting. Healthy food is sad food. It doesn't have taste. We also identify healthy food with tasteless food. And cooking takes too much time. I don't want to cook. These are a couple of user stories that came from this the study that we made with the users. Like people who wanted to keep track of what they bought so that they know what they still have in the fridge and what they still need to buy going further. People who wanted to know how to cook the food because FoodKit has a special way of cooking, and it was not very clear from the flyers that we were providing how to actually cook the food. People who wanted to take food with them. We had a respondent who actually told us that she bought a pot to make the food in the office. So she had a stove in the office. It's called stove, right? Yeah. She had a stove in the office and she bought a pot because she wanted to eat healthy and she didn't believe in microwaves. So from that story, which was kind of extreme, we realized that maybe people need portable food. They need healthy, portable food somehow, and we need to make it happen so that we reach them everywhere they are. And of course, they want diversity. Everybody gets bored, so people wanted as many healthy food options as possible. But that's a happy story. The sad story is that it happens when you don't have any users or you don't have any customers, and you're kind of by yourself. And has anybody felt like that ever? No? Do you want me to tell the story then? Yeah? Okay. So it happened to me that I was working on a product where we didn't have any customers to validate the business idea. So in this case, we had a business idea, we understood it, but there was nobody out there to validate it with. I mean, the database was blank, right? Blank, nobody there, it was empty. So our challenge was to understand who needs this product, where we can find these people, how to talk to them, and how to get them as early adopters of the product so we can have beta testers and we can start rolling the product. And in this case, the plan was to let's go out and look for them. But it's kind of intimidating and not very, I mean, you don't feel very happy when you don't have anybody to talk to. So in this case, we took more steps than in the previous process. First of all, what we did is we defined our target audience. Who do we want to talk to? Like the job roles. And we decided they were like e-commerce managers. Okay, so we have that covered. Good. And the second step we wanted to take was how can we reach them, like super short, and get them a couple of insights on customer retention, like a couple of questions. So we built an online survey with a couple of questions, really short, closed-ended questions, where we asked about what KPI they monitor, how much money they spend on customer retention, on customer acquisition, what's their marketing budget, how big is their company, just to understand, just to profile them a little bit and to understand the gravity of the situation. And then we did outreach, and that was the most painful thing you ever did. Did anybody do outreach here? Yeah. Can you feel the pain? Yes. Because you have to reach people that don't know you, and you have to find a way to communicate with them and convince them that at least to give you like 5 minutes of their time just to fill in this goddamn survey that is going to change your life and his life as well. So we outreached to a lot of people on LinkedIn and on Facebook in specialized groups, and the thing is that it took us, not me, my colleagues did that, and it took us about 3 or 4 months to collect 400 responses to this survey. There was a catch to the survey. At the end of it, we had a lead collector. We had a page where we asked them to leave their email address to receive the survey results at the end. So all of a sudden, I had email addresses. So I was able to get some people to interview and also to validate the product with. But we built the survey, we collected the results, I built the survey results, we put it on a landing page, right? And then at the end of the landing page, we also put a call to action, join our early adopters list. The results, I was able to get about 10 user interviews with them, in-depth interviews, to understand how an e-commerce manager's life looks like, what are their struggles, what do they need in order to solve these struggles, and so on. We create the persona, of course, the landing page, and we had an early adopters list. And we also created trust and visibility because our product was new. And when your product is new, and I mean, nobody wants it. Nobody wants to talk to you. There are a million new products out there that are struggling to survive. So why should we pick you? And this is Mike. Mike is the e-commerce manager. These are his demographics. Mike he's a multi-hatter. He looks at reports. He manages budget, people, and supplies. He's all over the place. He does things from administrative to strategic, and he really needs to keep his customers. The tension are the fact that the dev is full, he doesn't know how to grow his business, high competition, data is siloed and all over the place. So these are the places where, these are the points where our product would have helped him. And this is the landing page I was talking to you about, and the lead collector at the end. So these are the survey results. We put them up. The page is still available, it's still active. And at the end, we asked them to become an early adapter of our product. So we got about 50 to 100 email addresses, and I was able to take them then one by one and inform them about when the product was launched and test the product with them. Good. So I start the presentation with India, and I will finalize it with India as well. I told you that I'm a very smart girl. I come from Romania, so I found my way around to actually talk to the fishermen. These are the actual fishermen. They are the ones putting their lives in danger at sea. And what did I discover? Is the fact that, one, they are illiterate. So if building a text-based solution was obsolete, was out of the question. Voice-based solutions were the ones that would help them because they needed to have information regarding storms, weather changes on the sea, where the fish was in order to save fuel, and also if they crossed the territorial waters. They didn't know exactly where the territorial waters were, so they find themselves often in fishing in Bangladesh waters. They would get imprisoned, beaten, and maybe sometimes people they didn't come back, some of them. So that was a very bad issue. Second thing I found out is that they need waterproof equipment, and I didn't know that. Because they go out in the sea with small boats, and they actually needed waterproof equipment that they didn't have. That was one reason why they kept their smartphones at home, because they're afraid of destroying them. So on the water, they were using like dumb phones, very old dumb phones. They would cut a plastic bottle in half, wrap it up in tape, and whenever they were out on the sea, they would put the phone in there, wrap it up, and then whenever they had to call somebody, they would open it and talk and then put it back there. And that's what waterproof meant for them. That was the alternative. Another interesting thing was the fact that there was no signal beyond 10 nautical miles from the shore. And there was no signal because the central India government decided to restrict the signal. And it decided to restrict the signal because there was an attack in Mumbai, which killed a lot of people because a pirate ship, yes, they have pirates in India, a pirate ship intercepted the fisherman boat, and they were able to get on the coast and kill people. So a decision made by the central government of India affected these fishermen because they had to go beyond 10 nautical miles to be able to fish properly. And they had to go beyond because they kind of fished excessively near the shore. So they used to spend, not having let's say, a proper education, let's call it like that, they fished abusively whatever they found near the coast. So now they were pushed into the deep waters with very small boats and lack of equipment to get fish. So these are the kind of insights you find when you talk to, in this case, my customers or your customers. In conclusion, what I would suggest is that whatever you're doing, you are even at this conference, I think you are even producing products for one another, right? If you're a developer, you use other products that somebody built for you, right? What I would suggest is try to get that person out for a coffee, ask them about their lives, about their days, about how they use your product, and how is that making an impact on what they're doing. Ask questions, ask your clients questions, but also ask your teammates questions. Why are we doing this? Why are we building the feature like this? Why are we considering this graphic to be like this? Why do we calculate things like this? Ask your teammates these kind of questions, because you may find out that sometimes the loud voicers are the ones who are getting their features being done, not because they know better than you, but just because they have a louder voice. And test assumptions all the time. If you have an assumptions, don't build on them. Test them first. Don't invest time and money. Get a piece of paper, draw your product, draw your solution on a piece of paper, take it with you, with your friends first, with your potential customers then. Say, look, I'm thinking of building this. How does it feel to you? Well, I'm thinking of adding this or changing that. Okay, go back in your laboratory, change it, update it, go back outside. But always go back outside your office and test your ideas with your customers. It would actually save you a lot of money and time, and people, and nerves. And yeah, in the end, build it for your users. And I think that's it. Thank you. Do you have questions? I would prefer them here, not on I would prefer the live interaction, but if they're there already.
Yep, we can combine both.
Okay.
Anybody that wants to ask a question without using Slido? You see, people are shy. That's why we're using Slido, because
Tell
it gives us a little bit.
No. He has a question.
He has a question. He's not that shy.
How did I end up in India? I was working in IBM at that time, and IBM has a corporate social responsibility program. They're sending people from different. I joined the program, and they selected me. So I joined a multidisciplinary team from different various corners of the world, and we went there. The aim was to use design thinking on this project, which we actually did. So that was one of IBM's programs to support local communities in emerging markets.
I've just switched the display.
I couldn't say there's an optimal in this case, but what I would say is that whenever you find you had an initial round of research and you implemented something, I would actually advise you to do experiments, to test it, to actually do A/B tests, keep the original version, expose it to some of your customers, and then also have an updated version, and also compare to see the reactions. I would say test it all the time. I would not stop at one specific point in time. But it's not something that, of course, you do on a daily basis. Maybe leave it a couple of months, see how people react, analyze your results, which is super important to look at the impact that the change made in your product. So, for example, if you want to change what we discovered was we need to change the way the user experience, user journey on the website to remove some of the features. So we're going to do that. They will change them and also test them on a weekly basis to see how they performed. But that's what I would suggest. Maybe on a quarterly basis, but there's no clear optimal way of doing it. Welcome.
Any further questions from the hall? You can also use Slido, but also ask them vocally, no problem. There is one in Slido.
Yeah.
I'm going to use it. So how do you determine the sample size needed for the surveys, and how do you make the sizes that you need to make the decisions?
Mm-hmm. When you do user interviews, so when you do in-depth interviews, that's qualitative research, 5 or 6 or up to 10 interviews is enough, because you will find some patterns in up to 10 interviews. When you do quantitative research, the higher the number, the better. you saw that we didn't stop. We wanted to get 1,000 responses. We didn't get them. We got 400. 400 was a good number. I mean, in the range of thousands, of hundreds, should be a good number to validate an idea.
Super. Another question from Swido. Was the second startup successful, the one without users?
Yeah, it was more successful than the first one. Yeah. Sorry, which one? Sorry.
The one without the users.
Well, I mean, they're both successful. The first one, the food kit, yeah, is more successful. I would say successful that it has customers and it's an ongoing business. The second example, it's just kicking off. So we can't compare something that's been there for a couple of months, has a recurring number of customers and orders and people already buying. So you have something like a stable business with something that is just being, just rising now, you know.
Then maybe a question from me. How much money do you think it cost you to gain your wisdom? And do you think you can do the wisdom without wasting the money of implementing stuff that shouldn't have been implemented?
I don't put it like in terms, I mean, when you look at money, you look at the salaries of the people you're bringing in the project. The fact that when you're developing something, you have a developer, back-end, front-end. You have a designer, you have a product manager, a marketer, someone from sales, and someone from communication, maybe. I don't know. You have a lot of team that you have to pay, for which you have to pay salaries. So that was what I was saying in terms of money. But I think that there are not like mistakes. If you fail at something, it's something that you learn. So after the initial failure that we had there with not selling the product in the end, is we understood the right approach to do it next time. And the next time was better than the first time. And then it's going to be a next time which will be better for the second time. It's always a continuative, iterative process.
Okay. Any further questions? We don't have anything in Swido.
No?
No one wants to voice anything else. So let's just thank Anca once again. It was incredible. Thank you.
Thank you.